Hi, welcome to Real Estate with Mike. I'm a real estate investor here in New Jersey, but been an Airbnb host for the past 6 years. And recently, we moved our short-term rental business more to medium-term rental, 1 to 3 month. And our client base has, or our guest base has changed significantly. Right now, about 6 out of 10, I guess, guests are in between real estate transactions, where either they're relocating into New Jersey and are doing a medium-term rental while they look for a new home and get settled into their job, or they're local where they've sold their home and found it makes more sense to do a medium-term rental while they look for a purchase. So between that guest base, because I'm out managing, actively mowing lawn, checking on things, getting guests, whatever needs they have, I'm usually there, resolving them. So I talk, and we have these, I talk to them quite a bit about real estate, far more real estate conversations than I used to have when, primarily our guests were, short-term weekend, 1-2 night here for weddings or, just vacation or whatever. So I've noticed that the real estate conversations are, there. It's an interesting conversation, and it sounds like the current real estate the current home buyer is really kind of out there struggling, and it's almost like some of their needs are not getting met out there. So I offered my advice from the perspective of a real estate investor, and I'm surprised at how little they considered some of the things that most real estate investors look at. And I just want to share some of those conversations. I'm gonna try to make a few videos, like one a week, and I've got about 10 topics that I just come up more often, and I just want to share them with you, that maybe there are home buyers out there that if you hear this perspective, maybe it may help you. So I apologize for my rudiment slide, no slides, but my rudiment easel here. I'm going to learn how to do better slides, but I just thought that getting the information out was the most important, so I just went ahead and wrote them up on the board. So the first thing I want to talk about, this topic has come up the most with when I talk real estate with my guests. What I'm finding is guests are going out looking for properties, finding homes they're attracted to. And what I'm showing here is an example of a planned community. I mostly hear this in people who are looking to purchase in planned communities, townhouses, new construction planned communities where there's single family townhouses. There's several of them around New Jersey, North New Jersey. I'm sure whatever state you're in, you probably got them as well. What I'm finding is, what I'm hearing guests complain about is that they're going off and finding this house, and whether they're having issues with the contract, the negotiation, whatever, they're finding this house and they're telling me about it and asking for advice. And then as soon as I pull the house up, I ask them, hey, now that you know the house you're willing to buy, have you gone and looked to see what's for rent around the house? And of course they're stunned, because they're like, why would I want to buy? I don't care about renting. And I'm trying to show them that right now there's a huge disconnect in the market, that wherever you're looking to buy, I'm pretty sure right around the corner is the same house that you can rent for significantly less money, and you should be considering that. That's probably the best deal in the market. And I want to just show one that I've walked across this past weekend from someone who actually saw this, and they took the rental and they walked me through the numbers. And I figure I share them with you, and if this helps, please let me know. So here's basically the big issue. So homeowner goes to find the home they like. In this case, the sale price $730, 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 2,700 square feet. But if you go to any real estate listing site, they'll also give you what they consider the monthly cost of owning that home after the down payment. That's usually principal, interest, taxes, insurance, probably HOA fee. So this house, when we did this together, he showed me literally around the corner, same house, a little bit smaller, about 600 square foot smaller, 3-bed, 4-bath, but rental price for $2,900. Matter of fact, this house actually had a zero security special. So this is it just doesn't make sense, and I think it's scaring some homeowners away. And I'm saying no. I think this is what you should be considering significantly. You should take this deal. It's the best deal in the market. And he had another one very close by as well, even a little bit smaller, 1,932 square feet, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, but $2,845 a month. So what I'm finding is that potential home buyers are so caught up in their home purchase pursuit that they're unable to pause and actually look at the rentals that are in their market, when in reality that's what they should be doing. This is actually what they're saying when I show them this. You know, the first thing is the regret that they don't have a 3% mortgage. You know, if I only had bought a few years ago in 2021, 2022, and you know I didn't get a chance to take advantage of that 3% mortgage, why can't I do that now? The other thing they always talk about is, well, if I take one of these rental options, what if they raise the rent? And then now I'm stuck doing this all over again. And then, oh, by the way, isn't renting thrown away, just throwing cash away? And I feel really bad that these are the thought process that's actually paralyzing, I think, home buyers right now, and they're making them miss out on probably the best deals that are in the market. I just want to share to you what I'm finding, and I've actually got a few people who are actually taking advantage of this, and you know maybe this will help someone else out. So sorry about that. So here we go. What I want to show you is the difference between why these rental rates can actually exist in the market, and pretty much why they can exist is because the homeowners that own these homes, they refinanced them back in 21, 22 when interest rates were in the 3% range. So all I'm going to do is show you the difference between, at the current purchase price, if you go buy this home, the difference between you buying it today with a 6 3/4 interest rate and the current homeowner, how cheaply they own the property because they have a significantly lower interest rate. And so real quick, I just want to analyze this one property at the two different interest rates to give you just an example of how powerful that low interest rate is. So 20% down payment on 730, you know, it doesn't change, it's the same. The loan amount, $584,000, you know, nothing changes. But at 6 3/4 interest rate, my annual interest rate, $39,000. I divide it by 12 and I get my monthly interest rate. I go back and I looked up what the principal, tax, insurance, HOA, it worked out $1,151. That's going to be the same no matter what. And it shows, you know, just a breakdown of how they got to the 4436. However, if I go back and say, if I had this home with the interest rate that the homeowner probably currently has, let's just say 3 3/4. I'm just, you know, pulling out of the air, probably a fair interest rate they could have got at that time. And I'm just saying that, well, if I use that interest rate, it's about $21,900 for the annual interest. Divide that by 12, and their monthly interest rate is around about $1,825. Go back and get the principal, interest, HOAs, fees, $1,151, and it shows you that you know we're estimating, just trying to get a feel for what that current owner actually, what his or her monthly costs really are, that allows them to rent this home at such a low price. Isn't it interesting that it works out $29.76, very close to what these homes are available to rent for right now. So when I go back and try to answer my initial question of, if I could only have a 3% mortgage, of course we can't go back in time, but the next best thing to do is to rent from someone that does have a 3% mortgage. And that's what taking these rentals in these communities actually is giving a current homeowners the opportunity to do. If they can actually trust this analysis and trust these numbers, they're going to be surprised. The second thing, let's answer, what if they raise the rent? Well, most likely this homeowner that already owns this home, when they refinance that home in 2021, and you know, at that 3 3/4 rate, I'm pretty sure that they did it when the value of the home was probably a lot lower, probably to 500, 600, maybe even lower than that, given the run up of homes. So their actual cost number is probably a lot lower. They don't want you to leave. They're not going to be raising your rent. If they're making about $1,000 a month, if their numbers are about, $1,900, $2,000, and they're written to you at $3,000 or whatever, they don't want you to leave. They would actually keep you there for a long term. So I think when people start to understand this, they'll realize this is actually a very stable option to take. The other thing, renting is throwing cash away. Well, what I would argue is, if you're in the first couple years, you're putting so little money towards your principal. If you're just doing renting for 2 or 3 years, the amount of money you're putting towards your principal on a mortgage this high is not that much. Maybe $500 a month. I think it's something like that, $500 or $600 a month. In a declining market, you'll eat through that $500 if interest rates are going to, or if real estate is really expected to drop 3 to 5% over the next couple of years. I think it potentially could drop even further. But that $500 that you're actually putting towards principal every month on a mortgage this big, you're losing that just in the price depreciation the first place. You're actually better off renting and preserving your capital. So the main reason why I'm actually presenting this video is because I've had 2 friends that did this. They literally went, to this home to make this purchase, saw these rentals, and immediately took the rentals. Said this is ridiculously cheap. Meanwhile, I've got 3 guests that will refuse to look at this and are buying. Even though they have the same scenario in the community they're looking in, they insist on buying. And I just think it's interesting that wow, the 2 probably wealthier, more sophisticated home investors or homeowners that when they saw this opportunity, they rented. And probably the next notch down, the guests that I have are choosing to buy. And I'm like, I just want to make sure people are aware that there are people out there that are taking this opportunity and they're not looking back. So to answer what I'm hearing from them about renting is throwing away the cash, I just want to show you one more. This is, let's recap what I'm proposing, what I'm seeing in the market here. The steps kind of look like this. If you're looking to buy, go out there and find the community that you want to buy in. Find the house. Write the contract on the house, and then pause. Once you pause, take your phone out and look for rentals in the community, just nearby that property. And if you can find rentals nearby that are at least $500 less than your monthly purchase cost, then you're supposed to rent. In this case, it's significantly higher than $500. Now, what I learned from the first couple that actually took the rental over buying, this they told me they're going to do. They said they're going to pay themselves the buy rate. I was like, what do you mean? And they said, well, what we did was we set up an account because we were willing to pay that $4,436. We're willing to pay that every month. So instead, we set up a separate rent payment account where we put $4,436 in every month. And then from that account, we pay out the rent of $2,900 a month. And they said, yeah, so it's $1,536 that's sitting in that account every month because we went to go buy and chose the cheaper rental option. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty powerful. So they took a 2-year lease out, and they're expected, because they don't have any other crazy costs in a rental. They don't have, there's no maintenance, there's no repairs, there's no upgrades, there's no capital investment, there's no kitchens. Like, we should be able to keep that $1,536 consistently going to that, staying in that account for the next 2 years. So we're not doing a down payment. That stays in the account. And then now we expect to put, another $36,000 in the account over the next 2 years. And so their response to isn't renting throwing cash away, their response is, right now renting is so cheap, maybe throwing cash away is actually the purchase. So until the home affordability till that number drops closer to this number, they're just going to keep renting. So where this comes from is conversations with my, my guests. And there's several others that are coming out that I would like to go off and get the information to help them make good decisions as best I can. If anything I can provide them, whether they take the information or not, I'm learning that, wow, there's probably other people out here in the YouTube market that hopefully this helps. And I'd like to share whatever I can and offer something back to the real estate conversation. So it's my first video. Please forgive the basic presentation, but I just wanted to get the data out. If this does work for you, or you got any questions and comments, please stay with me on this journey as I, turn this into a slightly more professional presentation. But hopefully the data makes sense, and if you're out there looking, don't be afraid to find that home you want, and then pause and go look and see what's for rent. You're already committed to the community. Being in a community with much lower rental rate actually is beginning to build your equity if you do it right. You can actually start building your own equity if you're, a little creative, a little focused and disciplined. You can win in this market as the market begins to continue to go down, and when this price differential between ownership and renting, gets tighter, then you'll be ready to buy. You'll have your down payment that you already had in your account, and hopefully you'll have a little bit more money to be even more aggressive. Again, thank you. Real Estate with Mike. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week.